actually a really sunny day today for being September 11th. Happy 9/11. Tongueless, the lexicon of enslavement, rejecting the mantle of black. Language is not merely a tool for communication, it is a vessel for history, a carrier of cultural DNA and a architect of reality. Within the American lexicon, few words are as fraught with the ghost of a violent past as the racial identifier, black. For many, it has been reclaimed as a badge of pride, a unifying symbol of identity and resistance. However, from my perspective as a descendant of the enslaved, this reclamation feels like a profound and painful paradox. To me, the term black is not an identity but an epithet born of slavery, a deliberate tool of dehumanization that I refuse to endorse. Its continued use perpetuates the very logic of the slave system it purports to defy, and its replacement with more accurate, humanizing language is not a matter of political correctness, but a necessary step in the long decolonization of the mind. The historical genesis of the term is rooted in the brutal economics of chattel slavery. Upon the shores of the Americas, Africans from diverse kingdoms and cultures, Yoruba, Ashanti, Mandinka, Fulani, were systematically stripped of their names, languages, and identities. This was not an incidental cruelty, but a calculated strategy. A person with a name, a history, and a culture is human. A person reduced to a color based category is easier to catalog, sell, and control. Black became the operative term in bills of sale, ledgers, and legal codes that defined people as property. It was a label imposed by white slaveholders to create a monolithic subhuman other, erasing a vast tapestry of individual and ethnic identities to facilitate their exploitation. To accept this term is to accept the terms of our initial commodification, to internalize the categorizations created by our oppressors for the purpose of oppression. This does not get talked about enough at all. Wonder why? It's an everyday thing, it's a learned behavior. Proponents of reclamation argue that adopting black transforms it from a slur into a symbol of power, yet this argument overlooks a critical point. The world's fundamental meaning remains tied to a system of anti blackness. In Western symbolism, black is synonymous with evil, emptiness, and death, the absence of light and goodness. White slaveholders operating within this symbolic framework did not choose this term arbitrarily. They selected it for its pre existing negative connotations to reinforce our supposed inferiority. To call myself black is to willingly don the symbolic mantle they fashioned for me. It is to anchor my identity in a chromatic hierarchy where I am defined by the negative pole. My identity is not an absence, it is a presence. It is not a void, it is a rich and complex history. I refuse to be defined by a metaphor that inherently devalues me. The alternative, African American, while imperfect, offers a path toward historical and cultural specificity. Spec- Specificity. It is a term that acknowledges both the violence of the rupture, the forced migration from Africa, and the centuries of struggle and synthesis that have occurred on American soil. It points toward a geography, a diaspora, and a culture rather than reducing a people to a mere color. It forces a recognition of our humanity by connecting us to a land, a heritage, and a history that predates the transatlantic slave trade. It is a placeholder that acknowledges we were a people before we were property, and that our identity is more than a reaction to oppression. It is an act of reorientation, shifting the focus from how we were seen by our captors to who we are in our own right. Ultimately, the insistence on black feels like a concession to the logic of the slave state. It accepts the terms of the debate as defined by white supremacy, that race is primary and most salient fact of my being, and that it can be adequately described by a color. My resistance lies in rejecting these terms altogether. I am not a color, I am a woman, a scholar, a descendant of survivors. My story is woven from specific threads from specific places: Ghana, South Carolina, Louisiana. To collapse all this into black is to perform a second erasure, a self imposed silencing of our own multifaceted narrative. The journey toward true liberation requires a rigorous examination of the tools we use to describe ourselves. Language shapes thought, and thought shapes reality. By continuing to use the language of the auction block, we risk subconsciously reinforcing its dehumanizing logic. Discarding the label black is not an attempt to escape history, but to transcend its most damaging frameworks. It is an act of insisting on our full, complex, and specific humanity, a humanity that a mere color could never contain. It is a demand to be seen not as they saw us, but as we know ourselves to be. Now, this is completely off topic, but I present to you the anxiety jar. Fermenting on a budget while the system collapses. Intro. Scrawled in shaky pen on the inside cover. They're selling gut health and pills for $30 a bottle. They're selling peace of mind and workshop for $200 a session. They are packaging and selling the feeling of being a real, connected human being. It's a trap. The truth is bubbling in a jar on the counter. It costs pennies. It smells a bit weird. It is alive. This is not a cookbook. It is a manifesto, a quiet, fizzy rebellion. Gear, you already have it. A clean jar, a old pasta sauce jar, is perfect. The ghost of capitalism holding your salvation. Something heavy, a smaller jar, a clean rock, the weight of the world holding your veggies under the brine. A cloth, a coffee filter, an old t-shirt to keep the flies and the bad vibes out. Salt, the cheap kind, not the fancy Himalayan shit they sell you to feel special. First recipe, the static cabbage. This is it, the entry point to the gateway drug, the vegetable equivalent of a nervous breakdown that turns into a breakthrough. What you nick, or steal, or have already at the house. 1 head of cabbage, the saddest, cheapest one you can find. 1 tablespoon of cheap salt per pound of cabbage, weigh it with your anxiety. The process, it's listening. Shred the cabbage, hack at it. Imagine it's the face of the guy who invented microplastics. Massage it with the salt in a big bowl, or really get in there. Squeeze it until it screams, until it weeps. You are breaking down its cell walls. You are breaking down your own. It will release water. This is its soul. This is the brine. Cram it into the jar, fist it in, push it down. The brine must cover it. No air. Air is the enemy. Air is doubt. Weight it down. Cover it with the cloth. Leave it on the counter. Wait, it will bubble, it will sigh, it is alive, it is a tiny universe in a jar, a universe that costs 70p or 70 cents. This is written as a British NPC. Wanted to try something out. Taste it after a week. It should taste sour, alive, like a scream turned into something useful. Put a lid on it and shove it in the fridge. The cold slows down the revolution, but it doesn't stop it. Nothing stops it. I should be reading this in the British voice. 2. The twitchy turnip, a pickle for the coming crisis. Root vegetables, they are buried, they know things, they have seen the soil, they remember. What you nick, turnips, radishes, carrots, whatever is cheap and looks like it has seen some shit. Water, tap is fine, they've already poisoned it anyway. Salt, see above. The process, a silent scream. Chop the veggies, chunks, sticks, whatever. There are no rules. The rules are a cage. Make a 2% brine. This is not science. This is a feeling. For 2 cups of water, that's about 1 tablespoon of salt. Stir until it dissolves. It is the sea in a measuring jug. Stuff the veggies in the jar. Pour the salty sea over them. Weigh them down. They must be submerged. They must be held under. Cover. Wait. They all got fizzy, sour. They will become more than themselves. They are not just turnips anymore. They are preserved. They will outlast the current government. I don't have the best British accent. Last recipe. The nervous lemon. Preserved like your sanity. This is not fermentation. This is alchemy. You are turning bitter, sharp things into soft, complex umami bombs. A metaphor. You are a metaphor. What you nick. Lemons, the ones on the reduced shelf with a few bruises, perfect. Salt, a lot of it. A sterilized jar, pour boiling water in it, it hates that. The process, embrace the bitterness. Wash the lemons, stab them, cut them almost into quarters, but keep them attached at the stem. A crucifixion. Pack salt into the wounds, really stuff it in. They will scream, it's fine. Smush them into the jar, they will release juice, more juice. Cover them completely. If they don't, add more lemon juice from a bottle. It's a cheat, it's fine. Seal the jar, leave it in a dark cupboard for a month. Forget about it. Let it have its own private breakdown. After a month, it will be transformed. The rind will be soft, edible, incredible. Chop it up, put it in rice. On potatoes, it is salt and sour and pain and time. It costs nothing. It is everything. A final note. They want you to think real food is expensive. They want you to think health is a product. They want you numb and bloated and scrolling. This is the opposite. This is watching something change. This is participating in decay that creates life. It costs pennies. It is a tiny, fizzy, sour act of defiance. Now, fuck off and ferment something. Treat your body well.